At 2:47 a.m. on October 12, 2025, a vital Russian railway line in Rostov region, the lifeline pumping 60% of artillery shells and fuel to the southern fronts in Zaporizhia and Kherson, suddenly grinds to a halt. This triggers massive delays that could cripple Moscow's war machine. Open-source intelligence reveals at least 500 feet of track wrecked, a massive 2,000-ton military train loaded with over 2,000 rounds of 155mm artillery shells forced to stop dead in the night, turning a high-speed supply route into a total standstill. And here's the shocker that has experts stunned. This wasn't done by missiles or bombers, but by a shadowy partisan group called Atesh, using cheap gear that costs less than a used car. They targeted the signal control box, the electronic brain running the whole system, paralyzing everything in a chain reaction of chaos. This single strike exposes glaring blind spots in Russia's billion-dollar defenses, like radar dead zones and slashed patrols from planted rumors of internal moles. It signals a scary new phase in the war. Battles fought not on front lines, but in the shadows of logistics. But the big question hanging in the air: could this be just one clever raid, or the start of a sabotage wave that cripples Russia's entire invasion? Stick around to find out how a small team outsmarted a superpower and what it means for the conflict raging on. At 2:47 a.m. on October 12, 2025, a small team from the Atesh Partisan group positioned themselves in the shadows near Novocherkassk, a city in Russia's Rostov region far from the front lines. They lay hidden just 300 feet from a key railway track, and this location sat 560 to 900 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. The spot offered perfect cover in the dark night, while Russian guards slept unaware in their posts. The partisans, made up of Crimean Tatars, Ukrainians, and even some disillusioned Russians, had spent weeks gathering data from insiders within Moscow's ranks. They mapped every part of a 12-mile stretch of rail, learned the exact schedule for a supply train, and pinpointed weaknesses in enemy defenses. That train carried critical cargo, including 2,000 rounds of 155mm artillery shells, and it moved through the line that fed 60% of all shells and rockets to the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts. Without this route, Russia's southern forces would face shortages that could halt their advances. The Atesh team chose a smart target to disrupt the entire system without a big fight. They avoided hitting the armored train head-on, a move that would risk failure against its speed and protection, and they focused on the signal control box instead. By destroying it, the group could freeze operations across miles of track, and they used a low-flying drone to strike with precision. The device, likely a Switchblade 600 model, flew at 115 miles per hour through a narrow dead zone near the ground. Russian radar systems, such as the Nebo-M, tilted upward by 3.6 degrees to scan the skies, but this created an invisible gap close to the Earth. The drone slipped through undetected, carrying a 34-pound shaped charge that punched through the box with molten metal and vaporized its circuits. As the drone hit, red lights flashed on the train engineer's panel, and the signal ahead went dark. Rules demanded an immediate halt, so brakes screamed as the 2,000-ton beast ground to a stop in the middle of nowhere. The partisans had turned a fast-moving asset into a stuck target, and this stop exposed the rail's vulnerability. Atesh operatives had planted rumors of a mole in the Federal Security Service inside Rostov Command weeks earlier, and this trick spread fear that cut night patrols by 50%. Fewer guards meant easier setup for the strike, while the group's mix of locals and defectors provided real-time info on schedules and defenses. The railway served as the main artery for Russia's war effort in the south, moving not just ammo, but fuel and troops too, and a single break could ripple out to silence hundreds of guns on the battlefield. Data from intelligence reports estimated that 60% of southern supplies flowed through here, making it a prime spot for sabotage. Atesh, formed in 2022 amid the full invasion, operates in occupied areas and even inside Russia, and their members include those mobilized against their will. They gather details on depots, positions, and movements to feed back to Ukrainian forces. The group's motto stresses precision and resolve, and this raid showed their skill in blending tech with old-school tactics. A cheap drone worth less than $400 did what billion-dollar systems could not prevent. The stakes rose high in this quiet night assault. Russia's Panzer S-1 defenses, with 360-degree radar spotting small threats up to 2.5 miles away, guarded the area, and a Lear-3 jammer blanketed 150 miles with signal blocks to kill GPS. Yet the Partisans outmaneuvered these by flying low and avoiding direct links. Their goal aimed to starve enemy artillery, reduce attacks on Ukrainian cities, and force Moscow to shift resources. This move not only delayed supplies but sowed doubt in Russian ranks, and it proved that ingenuity beats raw power in today's fights. A handful of fighters paralyzed a key network, shifting the balance in a war where every shell counts. With the train now stuck in place, the Atesh partisans triggered a series of hidden Claymore M18A1 mines along the track, and this action shredded the rails into twisted metal that blocked all movement forward. These directional explosives, buried under gravel the night before, released 700 steel balls each at speeds close to 4,000 feet per second. The blasts ripped through the heavy steel beams, tore them from their bases, and created an impassable barrier across 500 feet of line. Reduced patrols from earlier mine games allowed the team to plant them without detection, and the explosions turned the supply route into a wrecked mess. Satellite data later revealed the damage as a clear break in the network, halting backups of 3 more trains loaded with gear. This strike exploited a clever gap in Russian surveillance to keep the operation hidden. The Nebo-M radar system, designed for wide sky coverage, angled upward by 3.6 degrees to spot high threats, but this setup left a slim blind spot near the ground. Small drones could hug the terrain and fly through like ghosts on an unseen path. Atesh fighters used this flaw as a secret route for their tools, and open-source reports confirmed the area's vulnerability. Intelligence showed how the tilt created a corridor where low-altitude devices evaded scans up to 2.5 miles out. The group's approach combined drone tech with planted doubts about spies in command, and mechanical sabotage sealed the deal. Together, these elements formed a layered plan that worked deep inside enemy land, 560 kilometers from the border. Russian defenses kicked in right after the blasts lit up the night. Alarms blared at a Nebo-M station 12 miles away, and operators spotted thermal spikes on screens. The system swept the area for intruders, while Panzer S-1 batteries powered up their phased array radars to hunt small aerial objects. These units, upgraded for 360-degree views, could down threats at ranges beyond 2 miles. Yet the Partisans had prepared for this response. 3 Bayraktar TB2 drones, launched hours earlier, appeared as obvious signals to draw fire. Missiles like the 57E6 streaked out and destroyed the fakes in bright flashes, and Russian crews tallied it as a win with 3 contacts eliminated. Stats from similar setups indicate each launch cost over $500,000, burning resources on decoys. The misdirection bought crucial time for the real work. While defenses focused on the bait from one direction, a modified Orlan 10 drone approached from another angle, and it flew on its own without radio signals. Preloaded paths used inertial guides and terrain maps to stay on course, dodging the Lear-3 jammer's 150-mile bubble that blocked normal controls. This unit broadcast a fake X-band signal mimicking a major Ukrainian threat, and the Panzer locked onto the spoof. Overall, the destruction not only cut the transport vein but highlighted gaps in layered protections, and it set the stage for wider chaos. With rails mangled and burning, southern fronts faced empty magazines for days. Right after the explosions rocked the area, radar stations in Rostov picked up strange signals and launched air defense measures to hunt down the intruders. Operators at a Nebo-M site stared at screens showing heat signatures from the blasts, and they ordered Panzer S-1 units to scan the skies. These systems activated quickly, sweeping for any flying objects in a 12-mile radius. Unofficial reports suggest the Panzer fired missiles by mistake at their own ammo storage due to a fake radar echo, a trick that mimicked an incoming attack. The launch sent expensive hardware streaking toward the wrong spot, causing self-damage without enemy shots. A huge blast got spotted from the east side of Novocherkassk, lighting up the sky like day for a moment, yet Moscow stayed quiet on official losses. Sensors recorded the event as a massive fireball rising 300 feet high, and it came from 15,000 pounds of 122mm shells going off in a row. Thin metal covers on the bunkers offered no shield against the flying fragments. This chaos pulled emergency teams in multiple ways, and FSB units rushed to seal off the zone. Open-source data hinted at the depot's role in holding key reserves, now turned into a crater that deepened the supply crisis. Russian forces sent a Mi-28 Havoc helicopter from a nearby base to chase the sabotage team and wipe them out. The gunship lifted off with Vickers anti-tank missiles ready, and its pilot used thermal cameras to lock on heat from human bodies and gear. From 5 miles out, the aircraft fired a rocket speeding at Mach 1.8, covering the distance in just 14 seconds. Ukrainian sources claim the partisans pulled out a simple radio jammer made at home, and it flooded the air with noise on the 5.8 GHz band. This mess confused the missile's seeker, making it veer off and explode in an empty field after 9 seconds of flight. The confusion spread fast as more systems joined the fray. A ground-based Parisvet laser powered up to burn sensors on any drones in range, and it aimed to blind Ukrainian eyes overhead. However, the partisans' next move came from a hidden spot a mile away, focusing on evading the chase. This setup ignored electronic jams, rendering the laser useless against their controls. The helicopter pilot saw incoming signals on radar but couldn't engage effectively, and with no missiles left, the craft pulled back amid the rubble. This failure left the area in disarray, cutting off key paths. Wider disorder hit Russian command as paranoia took hold from seeded rumors of internal betrayal. Meetings turned into arguments over suspected leaks, and coordination broke down for 72 hours. Intelligence notes showed officers refusing joint plans, slowing responses across the south. The Atesh raid not only wrecked physical links, but fueled distrust in ranks, and it forced Moscow to spread thin on security. Southern artillery units went quiet without fresh rounds, allowing Ukrainian advances of 3.5 miles in Zaporizhia. This mess proved how one smart hit ripples out, turning strong defenses into weak spots through clever plays. The Russian Railway Authority acknowledged a short-term break in the Rostov-Taganrog line, and this halt delayed military shipments for at least 24 hours. Crews scrambled to fix the damaged signal setup, but the stoppage backed up vital transports carrying shells and fuel. This interruption hit hard on operations, as the route handled a large share of supplies heading south, and experts noted how even brief cuts could strain frontline units. Data from logistics reviews estimated that such pauses forced commanders to ration ammo, slowing down assaults on Ukrainian positions. Strategic fallout from the strike spread quickly to the southern battle zones, if the supply chain through Rostov stayed blocked for days. Artillery batteries in Zaporizhia and Kherson would cut fire rates by 30 to 40%, according to think tank assessments. Hundreds of guns, key to holding ground, turned into quiet relics without fresh rounds. The Atesh move aimed right at this weakness, limiting rocket launches and easing pressure on civilian areas under daily bombardment. Reports highlighted how reduced barrages allowed Ukrainian troops to regroup, pushing forward 3.5 miles in some spots. Moscow downplayed the event as a minor hitch, but satellite views confirmed a 30-foot void where tracks once ran smoothly. This gap not only stranded cargo but shifted resources to road convoys, a slower and riskier option exposed to more threats. psychological strain emerged as a hidden blow from the operation. The sabotage stirred suspicions of leaks within the Federal Security Service at Rostov headquarters, and this doubt aligned with Atesh's earlier efforts to spread whispers of betrayal. The group's psychological tactics, planted months ahead, bloomed into full disorder, and this internal mess amplified the physical damage. Southern forces, already short on gear, faced morale dips as trust eroded among ranks. Longer-term effects loomed over Russia's war plans. The strike exposed how dependent the military stayed on rail networks, with 80% of logistics tied to trains, and any break like this drained budgets for repairs. Estimates suggested costs ran into millions for new signals and guards. Atesh, by hitting deep inland, forced Moscow to pull units from fronts to watch home turf, thinning defenses elsewhere. Analysts warned that repeated hits could bleed the machine dry, turning a strong offense into a defensive scramble. Ukrainian cities, long under shelling for 3 years, saw brief relief as enemy fire slackened, and this shift boosted resistance efforts. The event underlined logistics as the war's soft underbelly, where small teams could tip scales. Overall, the raid's outcomes reshaped the conflict's flow. Delays not only starved weapons but fueled self-doubt in enemy lines, creating a double hit that favored clever plays over brute strength. Stats from monitoring groups tracked a rise in such actions, with over 60% now inside Russia. The Atesh success proved that hidden strikes carry big weight, altering strategies in ways visible from space. Russia stepped up internal security right after the strike, sending Rosgvardia troops to guard major rail lines across key areas. These National Guard forces, trained for crowd control and protection tasks, spread out along vulnerable routes to watch for more threats. Patrols increased at stations and bridges, while checkpoints popped up to check vehicles near tracks. This boost aimed to plug holes in defenses, and it pulled soldiers from other duties. Reports showed units redeployed from quieter zones, stretching resources thin amid ongoing fights. New low-range radar setups got installed to cover blind spots below 50 meters, fixing issues with earlier systems that missed ground-level moves. These devices, focused on short distances, scanned for small drones and foot teams sneaking close. Tech upgrades included better sensors for night ops, ensuring no more easy slips through gaps. Deployment happened fast in Rostov and nearby spots, and it cost extra money for equipment plus training. Stats from defense budgets hinted at millions spent on such fixes, diverting funds from frontline needs. Analysts warned that each patch to a weakness drains more manpower and cash for safeguarding supplies, yet Ukraine needs only a few drones to make forces scatter. Experts from think tanks pointed out this uneven fight, where cheap tools force big reactions. One fix leads to another, creating a cycle that wears down the system. In 2025, recorded sabotage cases jumped 3 times over 2024 levels, with over 60% happening on Russian soil, according to open-source trackers. Data from aggregators like OSINT groups tallied these events, including rail hits and depot fires. The spike tied to groups like Atesh stepping up deep strikes. This trend forced shifts in strategy, as more incidents meant constant alerts. Figures revealed most actions targeted logistics, hitting where it hurts without direct clashes. These steps by Moscow showed a push to harden home fronts against growing risks. Rosgvardia's role grew beyond usual jobs, now including rail watches that demand round-the-clock shifts. This change pulled from reserves, leaving gaps elsewhere. Radar additions filled tech shortfalls, but upkeep added burdens. Maintenance crews worked overtime, while suppliers rushed parts to keep units running. The overall effort aimed to deter repeats, yet it highlighted a reactive stance. Each new layer of protection ate into war funds, slowing other plans. Warnings from observers underlined the trap of endless upgrades. Patching one flaw opens questions about others, and it ties up soldiers in static roles. Ukraine's side gains from this, using simple gear to dictate pace. The quote captured this mismatch, where vast networks face pinprick blows. Projections suggested continued rises could strain economies, with repair bills climbing fast. Sabotage stats painted a clear picture of escalation as inland targets became common. Trackers noted patterns in hits, from signals to bridges, eroding confidence in safe zones. This response phase revealed deeper shifts in the conflict's nature. Beefed-up guards and sensors aimed to rebuild control, but they signaled weakness under pressure. Forces once focused outward now turned inward, diluting strength. Analyst insights warned of sustainability issues as costs mount against agile foes. The 2025 surge marked a turning point, with data showing territorial hits dominating. Overall, these measures tried to counter clever raids, yet they risked overstretch in a drawn-out struggle. Smart warnings urged balance, but trends pointed to more strain ahead. On October 12, 2025, a tiny team from Atesh turned a quiet night in Novocherkassk into a nightmare for Russia's war machine. They wrecked 500 feet of track, halted a 2,000-ton train packed with 2,000 artillery shells, and sparked chaos that delayed supplies for 24 hours straight. This wasn't just a hit on rails, it exposed Russia's soft spot, logistics, where a single strike can paralyze the whole system, forcing artillery to go silent and commanders to doubt each other. Deep inside Russian territory, 560 kilometers from Ukraine, these partisans used cheap drones and mind games to outsmart billion-dollar defenses, hitting not the trains but the signal box that runs everything. The fallout? Southern fronts faced ammo shortages, paranoia spread through ranks, and Moscow scrambled to fix gaps, but at a cost that drains their wallet fast. Now, here's the big question that keeps you thinking. What if these attacks don't stop at railways but hit power grids in Moscow or oil fields in Siberia? War today isn't just about bombs. It's a battle of wits, whispers, and waiting for the right moment. Is this just one clever move, or the start of a sabotage storm that shakes Russia's core? Drop your thoughts below. Do you see a new era of guerrilla warfare, or just a glimpse of Moscow's deepest fears? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Military Force for more deep dives into the battles shaping our world.